Preparing to live stream the meeting.
Alexa?
Yeah.
I see I'm down as Rosemary, and the photograph doesn't look like Rosemary. Is it possible to change that?
Yeah, I can change your name.
Okay, thanks.
I was going to chat you up later, Rosemary.
Oh, she's married to a right old boy. You might well have had a lucky date.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, Jackson's just coming in as well. Okay, we're live on YouTube, so you're good to go.
Okay, well, thank you, Alexa, and welcome everybody to this, what is part 3 of the annual Town Council 2021. Part 1 was a week ago on the steps of the Town Hall when we carried out the mermaking ceremony, obviously taking into account the COVID restrictions at that time. And part 2 was the actual photographs on Tuesday. And part 3 is what we're left with as the balance of the normal sort of agenda of this annual town council. It's generally all performed in one movement, and it generally does not take an awful lot of time. So I don't think that we'll be troubling too many scorers today. So first of all, can I ask for the apologies for absence, please?
I did receive apologies from Jackson, but he's obviously managed to make it here, and from Paul Mason.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any declarations of interest?
I have a declaration of interest insofar as I'm chairman of the Beaconsfield Community Association and I'm vice president of the Beaconsfield Society.
Thank you. Alison?
I just think I should declare I am the chairman of the Beaconsfield Society.
Okay. Anyone else? Paul?
I am a trustee of Better Connected Beaconsfield and also chair of the patient participation group of the Simpson Centre.
Thank you. Andrea?
I am chair of Friends of Hotspur Park and secretary of Hotspur Youth Club.
Okay, thank you. I shall declare an interest as a member of the Beaconsfield Society. Now, Town Council minutes from the 18th of March, we still do not have. What's the story on that?
What it was I didn't have, the questions came in fairly late and I didn't have the document that detailed the questions, and I want to get the answers right, and I shouldn't have left it to the last minute.
Okay, can we aim to issue those during the course of this week?
Yeah.
And I suggest if we get them onto the website ASAP.
Yeah.
The minutes of the, basically where we started a week ago, 20th of May, you should have a copy of those minutes in your pack. I've read through them. It's a simple one-pager. And I'd like to propose that we adopt those minutes. I don't think there's anything in there that's contentious at all. Can we have a seconder? Alex, you're muted.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, and thank you, Paul. Everyone happy with the minutes then?
Yep.
Okay. Right, if we move on to item 4, which is the approving and adopting the standing orders for Beaconsfield Town Council. For those of you who are new to this process, we do have a number of similar, shall we say, documents by which we operate, and the standing orders, as you can see, if you read through it, it's a fairly chunky document, but it basically tells you how the council works and how it operates. We have recently made some changes to bring it into line with the NALC model recommendations. And we have already, I think, gone through this, certainly in the governance committee, and approved it. And thanks once again to Lorna Shaw for managing that activity. Again, unless anyone has a reason for wanting to ask any questions about any particular aspect, then I would recommend that we approve and adopt the standing orders. Sandy?
Agree?
Okay. Graham, did you want to comment?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. We'll move on then to item 5, which is really the aspect of our governance that covers the way in which we operate our financial regulations. I was not part of the group that basically reviewed and made changes to what was there before, but I can tell you it was probably one of the most boring meetings I've ever sat through. So
you came in for 10 minutes, didn't you?
So it's very much a sort of standard practice of financial regulations. It's intended to make sure that we've got checks and balances throughout. And I think we've probably overcooked that and done it as much as we can. So I'm happy with the financial regs. I suggest that we also adopt and approve.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Everyone happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Standing committees, I think that you have had probably conversation with the clerk in which various comments have been made about which groups and committees individuals might like to participate in. And I think there is a table showing the groupings that are proposed. One should just mention that because we have 4 committees and there are effectively 8 members per committee, then it's a simple piece of arithmetic that basically says that if you sit on 2, then you will have fulfilled the obligation, and we end up with 8 people in each committee. So that's all very useful, and the recommendations are as shown in the table that's been produced. What happens next is that the town clerk will tell us when the date of the first meeting of each committee will be, and at that meeting the 8 people will choose the chair and deputy chair of each committee. Are there any comments anyone would like to make at this stage? Anyone not happy? Paul?
It's not that I'm not happy. I am happy. But Mr. Mayor, could we ask the clerk to clarify the position about the attendance of councillors who are not on a particular committee attending and speaking at other committees, please?
Okay. Alexa?
Sorry, I went on to the mute as I had a very noisy cat arrive. You may all attend any committee meeting, but you will only be able to vote if you are a member of that committee. If you're not a member of the committee, you need to be recognised by the chair of that committee to speak. And in fact, normal practice would be that everyone at every meeting should be recognised by the chair to speak. So we always go through the chair who controls and governs the meeting. So you can come to any committee that you like. If sometimes there is a part 2 of a committee, which might be something which is particularly confidential, perhaps commercially sensitive, or involving staff or some particular sensitivity. If and councillors from other committees can also stay for that part too, unless any councillor has a conflict of interest in the item which is being discussed. And if there is ever a conflict of interest at any item, a councillor may be asked to leave the meeting whilst that item is discussed, and then they can come back in afterwards. Bit tricky to manage that on Zoom and YouTube, but we haven't had that situation, and hopefully we won't be in this situation for much longer.
Great, thank you very much.
Can I just add, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Alexa, but I think it's true to say that the mayor and the deputy mayor do have a vote on all committees.
Yep, you are ex officio members of all committees, so you can turn up to any meeting and you can vote in that meeting.
Okay.
Also the chair, if we are in council and the chair, or in fact in any meeting, and you have a deadlock of your 4 voting members, 8 voting members having 4 each, the chair of that committee will have a casting vote. So they can have 2 goes.
Okay. Right, thank you for that. Working groups, this is item 7. We only have 2 working groups that are basically ongoing, and they are the what was World War I and then subsequently World War II commemorations working group, where a number of people who are listed on the paper here came together for the purposes of organising commemorative events. And with regard to the 100-year centenary of the end of the First World War, we did have an excellent exhibition at the town hall and a number of events during that period. Unfortunately, the planned VE Day with regard to the World War II did not take place in the same way because it fell during the COVID lockdown. However, there are still some outstanding actions associated with that commemorative working group. And I'm sure that, Sandy, you will be pulling everybody together again as soon as you can.
Yes, I will.
Okay. And as far as the Christmas lights working group is concerned, looks as though you're on your own, Alex.
I think I forgot to put Lorna on there. I think Lorna was on the Christmas.
Okay.
I don't know. I wasn't quite sure who was on it and who wasn't.
Alex, do you want to comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to suggest that obviously, as and when the open spaces meet, we revisit that working group, and we can then add and put some members who would like to join it together. Basically, it's about the Christmas lights in the Beaconsfield, and also there is a Christmas switch-on event which you may have seen or been a part of over the last 3 years. So we weren't able to do it last year for obvious reasons, but obviously we sit and talk about planning for that, and obviously we'll be getting things in order. All going well, that event will be running around the end of November time, and that's a great fun event for the town.
And if I could remind everyone, there is no fake snow at any of these things.
Spoil sport.
Never, never again is there any fake snow.
Alison.
Even if you blame Jeanette Buckle.
Alison, you need to unmute.
I think we're planning to have fake snow at the Festival of Lights.
Sorry, Paul. Alison, would you like to speak?
Yes, it's just a general question, really, because a number of us are new town councillors. So I think we're trying to work out how this all works and how we can all work together, because, of course, we're not now all from one party. So I'm very excited that we're all going to be able to work together and, tackle some of the issues in the town. Now, you've mentioned 2 working parties, but is it the case that that other additional working parties would be set up to tackle whichever aspects, whichever problems we want to tackle as a council, and how do we bring those to the table, and basically how are we going to work together to get these things done that we decide need doing.
Okay, the answer to that is fairly straightforward, and it is that working groups are generally an extension of a standing committee. So if, for example, in a standing committee such as open spaces, there is a project, for example, associated with maybe having a community bus, then we would assign a number of relevant people to form a working group and investigate that particular opportunity. The reason why there's only 2 appearing at the moment, because there's only 2 that have actually been running over an extended period. But within a standing committee, there is always the opportunity to form a working group, which obviously would be decided upon by the participants of that group, and obviously assume that they were all in favour of establishing a group. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Alex?
And just to add to that, Mr. Chairman, if I'm right, we can bring in parishioners and outside bodies to join that working group.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Andrea?
I hope you don't mind me saying, but obviously, of 24 years Poppy Appeal, I am more than happy to step back in the ring for the war commemorations and the parade and everything around that.
Okay, great, thank you, thanks. Town Clerk, you wanted to speak?
Yes, it was just to say that working groups don't have to report either to a committee or to full council. They don't have any budgetary power. They don't have any decision-making power. So they really do have to. They kind of have to report back in, but they're generally given a brief. So, for example, with the Christmas market, we do know what the budget will be. So they know what they're kind of going for, and they do know the remit of what it is that we're trying to do, because it's been done several times before. And I know that lots of you have got ideas about working groups at the moment. Some of them might be work that the town council does anyway. If it's not work that the town council does anyway, then we're unlikely to have any budget for it. So please bear that in mind. So unless it's a maintenance job, the chances of having any budget are unlikely, unless we have to go through a bit of a rigmarole for that.
Alex?
Sorry, Clark, could you summarise how that budget works in a short sentence? Because I know for me, when I first joined, it was quite confusing. I'm sure for some of the new councillors, the fact that we predetermine the spend for the next year, so it all gets decided pre that year.
So in your standing committees, as we sort of head into actual work, so I sent you all the budget that is the current budget for the year commencing 1st of April 2021 going through to 2022. That is the sort of money that we need to maintain and manage all the assets that we have and do the jobs that we've got to do, or run the projects that we have already decided to do. And the idea is that we break even. We should spend every penny and not spend a penny more. So there are, sometimes projects run on a bit and we have to make an accrual at the end of the year to keep that money aside. We will go into a budgetary period in October. So through October, November, you'll be pitching your budget, pitching your ideas, and we will be reviewing that November, December. So we generally have a bit of a dry run in November before a formal acceptance of the budget in December. And that final budget is what we base the precept request on. And that is what you're going to ask the town, the people, to pay in council tax. So that's the contract that you make with the electors for the services that you're going to deliver in the following year. clear as mud, obviously.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Let's move on to item 8, which is the appointment of grievance and disciplinary panels. There also is one that was missed, I think, because item 9 is the appeals panel, and there should also be a complaints panel. So on the reverse page from the 2 working groups, you will find the grievance and disciplinary panel members, the appeals panel members, and the complaints panel members. It's worthwhile just making the point that where there was no need to make a change from the last panel, we have not done so. And where a councillor is no longer part of the council, we have added somebody new. So, for example, Andrea is sitting in the appeals panel, and Paul Henry is in complaints. If I just make the point here that grievance and disciplinary involves our own staff, it's not anything else. And if there is an issue with staff, either because the staff are unhappy with the way that things are for them, or alternatively, we are unhappy with the way that they're doing their job, then it will go via that panel. Similarly, if there is disagreement with the outcome of anything that is discussed, then the appeals panel is there to look at it again. The complaints panel is when a member of the public makes a complaint against the town council. And at that point, there is obviously a need for us to review that complaint and to decide what action to take accordingly. So that's where we are with those items. Let it suffice to say that they're not panels that meet very often. I think in the 10 years that I've been involved, I've probably sat in on 2 or 3 issues, and that would involve both sides of the equation, whether it's sort of people complaining about us or us complaining about other people. Item 10 is the Holtspur Bank Nature Reserve, for which we have a management committee that is comprised of members of the public who are actively involved in the nature reserve, and also representatives from the town council, because we actually own the land, even though we don't get involved in the day-to-day management of the activity. I think last year, was it Chris Owen and Alex Dunlop who were involved? Were you involved, Alex?
Chris and Lorna.
I think it was Chris and Lorna.
Chris and Lorna, okay. Yeah. Well, the question is, Lorna, are you happy to continue?
Yep.
Okay. And another person?
I'm happy to support Lorna on that. If you
okay. Want. Colette, you put your hand up. I mean, there's no reason why we can't have more than 2 people involved if you wish.
I'm happy to be involved if needed.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Now, the question of appointment of representatives on outside bodies is a little bit of a tricky one, because not every organisation in the town necessarily wants a member of the town council to be, their contact point. And I think that, this is one where we need to sort of seek expressions of interest amongst ourselves, there might be a particular reason why somebody wants to be associated with a particular group. And what we will do then is to get in touch with that group and say, we'd like to put forward a representative, and here is one of our town councillors that would like to participate with you, and take it from there accordingly. It's quite a long list of outside bodies that we've got, and I don't believe it's exhaustive, because I think that Paul Henry mentioned a few to the clerk maybe today, in which there were some that are not on the list that he is certainly involved with. I think Festival of Lights, was it, Paul?
Yeah, Festival of Lights and BCB. There are two councillors, Khaled and myself, who are members of the Festival of Lights committee.
Okay.
And Anita and myself, who are both trustees of BCB.
Okay, well, I mean, we can certainly fill those names in on the box. And I think, Colette, you've expressed interest in Women's Institute. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone happy to get involved with either the Curzon Centre or the Twinning Association? Sandy?
I'm actually a trustee of the Curzon Centre, so I think that I shouldn't be a representative of the town council on that, because I'm there in my own right.
Did you say you shouldn't be?
Yes, as
Okay.
I'm, in other words, I'm not an appointee, continuing from the last town council. I have been appointed a trustee independently of the town council.
Right, okay. I've lost a little bit of memory here, but I know that at one time I was also a representative for the Curzon Centre, and I thought they made me a trustee as well, but I think probably at that time it was just a temporary thing for 1 year or 2 years. But okay, so I understand what you're saying, and if anyone else would like to get involved with Curzon Centre, then that would be of interest, similarly with Twinning.
Yeah, I'd like to be, Alistair.
I like to be as well.
Sorry, who spoke first? Canwell.
Canwell, yeah.
So can you make a note of that, Alexa?
So that's on the Curzon Centre.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And
Khaled
Khaled,
as well.
Khaled, what were you saying?
I like to be there as well, if possible.
With the Curzon Centre?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I mean, just looking down the list, are there any areas where anyone has a particular interest that they would like to get involved with? Paul?
I have expressed an interest to the town clerk to be a representative of the council on the Beaconsfield Society. And the reason for that is there are some bridges that need to be built. And I would like to help to build those bridges. And I won't go into the detail of which bridges they are, but I think you're all aware of them.
I thought we only had one and it went across the railway. Okay, well, I think that needs to be taken away and considered, but not resolved at this moment. So
Lorna's got her hand up as well.
sorry, Lorna. Lorna?
I just want, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say at the Hotspur, Friends of the Hotspur Park and the Youth Club are on there as well. So perhaps Andrea.
Well,
I
think
that's Hotspur Park and the Youth Club, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of activity there. I don't see it's a problem to have more than one person involved.
That'd be lovely.
Okay, great. Okay, anyone else got anything more to say on this list of outside bodies? No. Okay. Right.
Alex,
Item-
are you
item-
on the Rotary? Or is Khalid on the Rotary?
I'm on Rotary.
Yeah.
Sorry, is this a declaration?
No. I'm just, no, I remembered something. I could see your name on the list, but I've got no one for Rotary and Round Table.
I can't, I'm a trustee of Round Table, so I can't actually be a representative.
Okay.
of that.
And but Khalid, you could do Rotary.
I can do Rotary. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Item 12. I know, Alex, you've had a go at this a few times already. Is there anything particularly that you want to add?
I just thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just very briefly say, because the poor councillors keep hitting my thank yous time and time again, but I just express, and because I'm live, and if there are any parishioners who are watching, really a big thank you to Beaconsfield for supporting, and I hope I've served the town well in my time as mayor. Looking forward, as I said to my fellow councillors, I'm looking forward to working with you all. We've got at some point, hopefully, a drive around Beaconsfield for those newbies to go and see the allotments and to go and look at the nature reserve, which is quite fascinating. You probably haven't been down there. I know certainly I hadn't been. And just moving forward on that, really just looking to the future as to how we can really work well at getting this town up and running to an even better standard than it is. And also, I think we've got training next Tuesday, which I'm going to be there as well. So I look forward to seeing you all there.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wednesday. Well, I'd been there on my own then. So thank you for confirming that. So really, it's just to say thank you again, and thank you to the town of Beaconsfield. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Alex. Right, unless the clerk has any more business, then I would suggest that we conclude part one of the meeting.
The only thing that I would say was in breaking news today, we're likely to get a grant from Buckinghamshire Council to help with the Welcome Back to the High Street initiative, and we may be looking to try and put together an event in July, and that's the sort of thing that might require a working group. I'm not sure whether it will come out of community or open spaces, really. There's quite often a lot of crossover, but I think I might just email everyone about that tomorrow, and you can show an interest in getting involved.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for some clarification as to which of the standing committees has responsibility for the community bus extension project?
I would think community and safety.
Okay, and whether, Town Clerk, there is said budget in place for it.
What I would say is where that last came to was, I think it went to the Resources Committee for them to start to consider whether or not there would be appetite for continuing that project. There was some initial reporting done on social return on investment. There were further financial clarifications requested, and I think that's probably about where it got to before everything ground to a halt with Corona.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
There isn't currently a budget. It needs to go, and the size of project, although the work would be done in the Community and Safety Committee, it would have to, that's a big thing. It would have to go to full council as well.
Right, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Colette?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question, and that is that we received as a town council a significant sum of money for the land for the health centre, which is now the new health centre. Has that been allocated, or is that going to be put into a working group, or are there any plans for that sum of money yet?
Well, what we can say is that our initial concern, and it was a very big concern, was to take action that would protect that sum of money. Because as you probably know, the sort of current legislation only allows for up to £85,000 worth of cover if you have got your money in a bank account. So initially, our concern was to put the money in a safe place, which we did.
Yeah.
Secondly, we also felt that it was important, given the stage of the cycle that we were in, that we would delay any consideration as to how we would look at new projects until the new council was in place. So basically, the next step will be to consider various ideas and initiatives, etc., and for that to go through the various committee stages as appropriate. There's nothing to say that, you know, any one committee should not put forward some suggestions. Okay.
So just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, that I understand this, we can all put our ideas together at committee level and they will all be discussed equally for that sum of money. And a decision will be made as to how that money is allocated.
Yeah, I mean,
as a group, yeah.
You would need to go through all of the levels, as it were, both from sort of committee stage through to resources and through to town council, depending upon what kind of initiative we were talking about, because some initiatives may be smaller and some may be bigger.
Brilliant, thank you.
Alex, sir?
And just on a point of technicality, councils don't work as corporate bodies may work. We have restrictions about how any such money could be spent. We have a very different attitude to spending money, which is capital or revenue. There have to be a lot of considerations to be taken into account before we decide that money is spent, because otherwise it has to come from precept rather than from capital. So there are restrictions.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I suggest that we close part one, and thank you to any members of the public